Hey there, Moonbeams! Welcome back to another moon forecast for the week of August 3rd. Let's get into it. So we start off the week with a bang with the moon being in the sign of Aries. And again, we had that full moon that was so crazy last week. So we're in the waning moon phase this time. So if you're feeling like your energy might be a little bit lower, that could be the reason why. So let's talk about the moon being in Aries. Aries is ruled by the planet of Mars. Mars is the planet of action and initiation and going for it. So when the moon is transiting the sign of Aries, you may feel ready to go at the drop of a hat, especially when it comes to things that deal with your emotions, okay? If you've been feeling a lot since the full moon, this is a really good day to take actions on those feelings. Now let's dive in to a little bit of the tarot that corresponds with the Aries moon. So for our major arcana card, we have the Emperor. Look at this guy. Let's look at the card for a second. So this card is represented by Aries. You can see the rams on his throne. And now the Emperor is like, he's got the red robes on. You can tell he's on a throne. He is the guy, okay? But what's really interesting is even though he's sitting down on a throne, and you can probably assume that he's conquered many challenges and he's overcome things and he's got strategy and structure, right? But you can tell that he's still ready for battle because he has his armor on underneath his robes. So when we look at this card in the context of the Aries moon, it tells a really interesting story because usually people say that Aries are impulsive and hot-headed and whatever. But the Emperor is actually a guy who works really hard on strategy, is hardcore with his structure, okay? He does not let nobody get by him. The Emperor here looks like he is a Mars kind of guy. He's ready for battle, he's ready to go, and that really does embody a really high road or good quality of Aries, okay? Now let's take a look at the minor arcana card that is associated with the Aries moon, and that is the Two of Wands. It is giving sort of an advice card. That's how I'm interpreting it today. When it comes to the Aries moon, when the moon is in Aries, on Monday, August 3rd, we want to make sure that instead of rushing into battle like the Emperor is ready to do, we want to make sure that we are taking some time to really take a step back, make sure that we're on a path that we want to be on, and making sure that we're planning our actions around the path ahead that we are planning on taking, okay? So the moon is in Aries from the 3rd until the 5th. So these couple of days, I really want you to be focusing on making a plan of action based on your emotions, but instead of acting on them, we want to take a little bit of time to take a step back and really plan our course of action. Okay, so then on August 5th, the moon enters the sign of Taurus. Now, Taurus is a fixed earth sign, okay? She's the stubbornest girly in the zodiac, okay? The sign of Taurus is ruled by the planet of Venus, which is the planet of love and beauty, harmony and art and money. So these are all key themes that we're going to want to really recognize if they're coming up for us emotionally. So let's take a little peek at the major arcana cards that came up for the moon in Taurus. Now we actually have two major arcana cards, which is kind of interesting because they look the same, girl. We got the High Priestess and we got the Hierophant, okay? Now, these are very interesting cards for the Taurus moon, but they also really make a lot of sense. And it is kind of giving like the divine feminine, divine masculine vibe. I don't know why. I guess just because these cards literally look the same. But let's talk a little bit about the Hierophant first. So the Hierophant is all about structure and tradition, okay, which makes sense with a fixed earth sign like Taurus. Taurus loves feeling stable, feeling like they're on the right path, feeling like they are doing the right thing the right way. You know what I'm saying? And that's really what the Hierophant holds on to. Then let's look at the High Priestess for this card. And the High Priestess really is about being receptive and being deeply intuitive. And when we pair these two cards together, it really tells a story of building structure and stability and tradition rooted in our intuition and our inner worlds and inner secrets, okay? Because the High Priestess, she's got a lot of secrets, okay? Look, she's holding a whole scroll. We can't see what it says, but it's got all the answers, okay? So when the moon is transiting the sign of Taurus, we are definitely going to be feeling like we want to have some structure and stability in our emotional bodies. And we can really tap into these cards' energies to be able to achieve that. Now, the minor arcana card that goes along with the Taurus moon is the Six of Pentacles. Now, this card is all about charity, prosperity, balance. It's about when you are in a position where you feel very, like successful and very balanced and very prosperous, then you should be out there sharing it with people who are less fortunate than you and being able to show the world that there's enough abundance for everybody. So let's put these cards together, okay? So if we want structure and we want tradition and stability within our intuitive emotional bodies, then we need to make sure that we are coming from a place of deep intuition. And coming right off of this Aries moon, I think that on Monday we're going to get a big stir, like the pot's going to get stirred. Our emotional pot's going to get stirred. It always does when the moon's in Aries, let me tell you. It always reminds you of all the things that you need to fight about. But then when the moon moves into Taurus, it's explaining that we can also, which I mean was the message with the Aries moon. The Aries moon was telling us to take a step back and to really think about our actions and our emotions before we take actions. And then when we have the moon in Taurus, it's again calling for stability, deep intuition, and then maybe the action that we need to take is going to be a little bit more of a charitable one than an angry one, okay? So we really want to lean into that energy in the middle of the week. Okay, so August 7th comes around, and guess what? The moon changes again. She moves into the sign of Gemini, and Gemini is a tricky moon sign. Personally, I find that it can really go one way or the other, if I'm being completely honest. So Gemini is ruled by the planet of Mercury, which is the planet of intellectualism, conversation, communication. It's very air energy, okay? So when we work with that Mercury energy, and that Mercury and the planet of Mercury is impacting the moon or our emotional energy, you're going to feel a lot more mental stimulation from your emotions. So if something happens to you or you experience an emotion, you may be thinking about it a lot more than normal. And that is super, super normal when the moon is transiting Gemini. Now let's take a look at the major arcana card that aligns with the Gemini moon. I thought this one was pretty interesting because I did not think that it was going to be it, but we have the Lovers card. Now the Lovers card is all about making choices, the dual nature of life. It's also about bringing together opposing forces. So this card, to me, when it comes to the Gemini moon transit, is we may be faced with a choice, or we may be faced with two opposing opinions that we're going to have to make a choice about. And now this is what's really interesting, is the minor arcana card that goes along with this Gemini moon is the Eight of Swords. Now, this is a relatively spooky card. A lot of people don't like this card. It talks about feeling stuck, mental restriction, and even self-doubt. So when we pair these two cards together for this upcoming moon transit, it's really telling a story of maybe feeling two different ways about a situation. It could be explaining that there are two different sides of a story, and this could lead us to feeling self-doubt or feeling like maybe our decision making is a little bit restricted. So when these cards come up for the moon transit, this to me tells a story that it's very possible that this week could come up with some situations that are making you feel like you need to take action. Making sure that you are structured and coming from a place of deep intuition so that you are able to make a choice or make a decision or come to a conclusion. And you got to make sure that you're not letting self-doubt get in the way of that or mental restriction. Okay. Now, Gemini moons, they don't like mental restriction. Okay. When the moon transits Gemini, it says, what do you mean? We should be thinking about how we're feeling, right? So it's really good to take a second to connect with your intuition so that you are making the right choice for yourself. All right, now on August 9th, the moon moves into the sign of Cancer. This is kind of the end of our week, so we'll touch a little bit more about this next Monday. Now, when the moon transits the sign of Cancer, this is actually the most comfortable sign for the moon to transit because the sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon. It's always a great time to really put an emphasis on home and making sure that you feel emotionally safe in your home or in your room or in your space. So let's take a little peek at the cards for the Cancer moon transit. Now, the major arcana card is the Chariot card, which I was quite surprised about. But the Chariot talks a lot about emotional self-control, having drive, and moving forward with sheer willpower. Now, if there's one thing I know about Cancers is that those people, they will get through anything, and they'll be put through a lot because they're ruled by the moon, and the moon is all about emotions. So when we have this Chariot card, it reminds us that we are always going in a direction. We're going to keep going no matter what. We are emotionally resilient and we are always going to be on top, okay? Now, the minor arcana card that comes with this is very interesting, which is the Four of Cups. Now, this card talks about being unmotivated, looking too much inward, just being bored and uninterested, not seeing the opportunities around us. So when I have these cards together, it does tell a story of there is a potential on Sunday, on August 9th, to be feeling a little bit unmotivated, maybe a little bit stuck emotionally. Maybe you're still experiencing emotions from a situation that you thought, you have moved through already. But when we pair this with the Chariot card, what this really tells me is that no matter what our mental energy levels are, we do have the willpower and the drive to continue to keep going, even if things feel stagnant or stuck. So I think the overall message for this week when it comes to the cards is that when we're going to start off the week with a bang with the moon in Aries, which is really going to fire us up and make sure and get us in a state of being ready to take action, but remembering that we need to take a pause and a breath before we do that, okay? Then we move into Taurus, which is going to bring a lot of deep intuition and desire for stability. And you're going to find a lot more of that stability when you open your heart and be charitable to other people, okay? Then we're going to perhaps have to make a choice later in the week on August 7th. Oh my gosh. And it could also come with a little bit of mental fatigue or feeling a little bit stuck. So keep that in mind for halfway through your week. You may have to make a choice where you feel like you aren't really able to. But then again, when the moon moves into the sign of Cancer, we're reminded that no matter how we feel, if we feel unmotivated, we feel uninterested, we don't want to do things, we're bored, we're tired, we have the power and the strength emotionally to continue moving forward as we are destined to do. Anyways, I hope this gives you a little bit of insight on the week ahead. Don't forget to like and subscribe because this really helps me out with making these videos for you guys each week. And I will see you next week when the moon phases change again. Bye!